Now, we have a phrase, if you capture it, you can use it. And to capture any data, it's going to be within one of your forms. As I said before, you have numerous forms that you can be utilizing. But say, for example, the sign up form where you're going to collect their details, and that's all user information, or their profile information for their fundraising page. Or, for example, the donation form where you go in and you've got the donation data that you can be collecting as well. There's all sorts of fields that you can create in order to capture the data that you need and then use it. So, how would you actually do this? Well, if we go into our campaign, the first area we can see is where to add our information. So let's go into our appeal campaign, settings, and you've got two primary areas and where you're going to be able to add data fields in. The first will be under donation form, and the second will be under sign up form. There is a third, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But say on donation form, I can go to fields, and I have the option here to add my new fields in that I want to be capturing data for. I can simply select add new. And in the drop-down list, I can see all the core fields available for me. Do note, there is an option here called create custom field, but before you select it here, I want to show you a little trick. One of the most important things that you can make sure you're doing when collecting data and setting up the data that you want to collect is being as neat and tidy as possible. One way to do that is to go out into your campaign, into your organization settings, go to field library, and have a look at the fields that you have available here. As you see, you're going to see a lot of core fields available. The reason we come back here is if we are going to create a new field, sometimes what people do is they'll duplicate different fields rather than knowing the field already exists here. So a good form of practice is often to create your custom fields here rather than in your campaign, just so you don't run into duplications. So for example, with donation, I want to add a new field. I can give this field a name and I'm going to call it proximity. It gives it a field ID, which is a permanent ID that you'll use for your database. Then you have the option to select what type of field you want. And I actually want this as a select field. I can then add options, close, and far. I can give it a default value out of one of the options that I selected. I can also put a placeholder in this, which I normally don't touch because you can utilize this for each one campaign differently. But then most importantly, down the bottom is this section here. Is this a public or a private field? Now, private field is information you do not want accessible at all to the public. So that includes things like phone number, address, and at times names. Public information or public field is able to be accessed by the database publicly. And so you just want to make sure that you are selecting the right one for this. Typically, if the information isn't that important that people know, you can just leave it as public. If it is private information, make sure you leave it as private. Now I can simply just select create field, and that field is now added to my database. Now that that field's in there, I can now use it. And do note, you can see under set, it's now called custom. If I want to edit this field at any time, I can simply select the little three ellipses over on the side and edit this field and make updates. But what I want to do now is I want to add this field to my campaign. I can go into my appeal campaign, settings, donation form, fields, add new. And if I scroll down to the very bottom, I'm going to see my new field proximity. When I'm in the campaign settings, I can set this to a required field. I can put in a placeholder if I want to. And I can also even add some help text as well. There is the option for adding some conditions, which is basically if another field exists or there's something in another field, show this field. And you can be playing with conditions as well. Now, you'll be doing this a lot within Razorly. And so that is why my suggestion is if you create new custom fields, do those over in your field library so that you can be reusing. Because one thing that's really important is that when you add a new field to a campaign, such as a donation field, even though the field will be called proximity, you can give this a completely new name. And it might be, how close are you to our cause? This label is what is going to appear on the front end of the campaign. So this you can update for any campaign to make it say what you want, but it's capturing the data on the same field proximity. And this is kind of what stops you creating a whole ton of different fields. Now, let me create another one just to give you an example of another common one that is used, and that is a marketing opt-in field. If I go back into my settings and go to field library, often marketing opt-ins are either in donation fields or in a user field. And so we're going to create one just in the user fields. Most people will create one in each. I'm going to go new field. I'm going to call this opt-in dash marketing. You may have other opt-ins that you use, such as terms and conditions. So making sure you have a good naming convention can really help. Now, marketing opt-in is going to be a checkbox. I'm not going to worry about default value. It can just be a public field, as this is easily fine for public information. And I'm going to hit create field. It's as simple as that. So now if I want to apply that field to, say, my new peer-to-peer campaign, I could go to settings. Instead of donation form, I'm going to go to sign up form this time. In personal information, which is user information, I can hit add new, and I have my new field here, opt-in marketing. I can make this a required, or unrequired. Now, typically do note if you do have a checked field, you will need to make sure it's probably unrequired. Otherwise, people will have to opt in for it. But with my label, I want to change this. Would you like to receive our communication? See how you can change the label? This gives you all the flexibility. So across all your campaigns, you can use this one field marketing of opt-in marketing, but you can give it different labels that are needed for the different campaigns that you have. Really, really helpful, right? So if I now go out to my peer-to-peer campaign, refresh, register, you can now see that I have my marketing opt-in field, which is going to be really, really helpful. You can see the same on the donation form as well. Now that is how you can add new fields into your database and how you can structure them. But a quick word in regards to ticketing information. Within tickets, this is the third area that you could be adding fields into your campaign. I said the first was donation form here under fields. The next is sign up form under personal information for user information, or profile information belongs here. But the third one is also ticketing. If I go to tickets, set up attendee fields, this is the space where I can be adding attendee fields to my tickets. And this is going to be really helpful for things like referral or dietary requirements or emergency contact number and different fields like that. Now you may have seen as we've explored this little space that in your campaign you can include fields in the hidden area as well. This can be really, really powerful if needing to sort of add some fields for hidden information that the user won't see on the front end, but you will capture on the back end. There's a lot of great uses within that, but we can explore those in another course. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of how you can be adding new fields to make sure your database is where you want it to be.